Hey guys, I'm Randy.
And I'm Daniel.
We're two lifelong friends and musicians, and when we're not playing gigs, we like to talk games.
And today on Gaming Gig, we're talking about It Takes Two taking the Game of the Year award.
All right, Daniel, It Takes Two won Game of the Year. This is something that I didn't expect, but I'll tell you, it's crazy because I wanted It Takes Two to win. It's the game I voted for, but I did not expect it to happen.
Well, I knew that you would be happy, and I was also really surprised, and I wasn't necessarily upset. It's not the game I voted for, as you know. I voted for Metroid Dread because I love it, but I didn't expect it to win either. So it was cool to see something that I didn't expect to win take the award, even if it wasn't Metroid Dread.
When I did the poll on our YouTube page asking what game people thought would win Game of the Year, I left off It Takes Two because I thought this game has no chance to win. I know it's not going to win, so I'm just going to leave it off because out of all the games, I thought this one has the least chance.
Yeah, I agreed completely. I saw that, and I thought that was an interesting choice, but I know we were kind of limited by YouTube on that. But, you know, I really did think it was a little bit of a feel-good story because It Takes Two is kind of an indie game. It's technically under the EA umbrella.
It's a Hazelight game, but it was published by EA, but it was developed by Hazelight. Mm-hmm. And Hazelight is a smaller studio.
Yeah, so I thought that was really cool. I mean, I think we both probably expected Deathloop to win.
I did, because Deathloop had the most nominations, so I just expected it to most likely win.
Yeah.
And it won a number of awards throughout the night, and I thought, oh gosh, it's going to win Game of the Year. Not that I would have been upset by that, because I've played some Deathloop, and it's a great game, so I wouldn't disagree if it won Game of the Year, but yeah, It Takes Two winning was a complete surprise to me, but a very welcome surprise.
Yeah, I think it was also a surprise to the gentleman who accepted the award. He seemed genuinely surprised and excited.
Yeah, he was super excited about it, and I don't think he knew in advance. It seemed like Nintendo knew in advance that they were going to win just the action-adventure game for Dread, because that speech felt very prepared and like it was going to be the only speech that Doug Bowser gave that night.
I wonder if they did know. Like, I wonder if if they do know ahead of time on Game Awards, because I know they tell, like, on some other award shows, I know they're given advance notice so they can be prepared.
That was the only one that I felt like was a for sure, like, I think Doug Bowser knew that he was going to give this one speech and one speech only. And in fact, after that speech, I thought, oh gosh, Dread's definitely not going to win Game of the Year, because that felt like this is the only speech I'm giving this night. Let me pack everything I want into this one speech.
Mm-hmm. I didn't think of it that way, but now that you mention it, you're right. It did kind of feel that way.
Yeah, for sure. But It Takes Two was the best game I played this year. When I went to vote, it was the one I had to vote for because it really was. It was just the best experience in gaming I had all year.
So I'm interested about that because, as you know, I haven't played it.
Right.
So I have, honestly, some very limited knowledge about it because I've kind of purposely avoided it because I hope one day to play it. So I'm kind of curious to get your take on a couple different topics. So tell me a little bit about just your overall impressions of the game.
Okay, so overall, it's an awesome game, and I know that's very generic, but it has a whole lot going on in terms of gameplay, and we'll get into the gameplay later, but my overall impressions is that it looks amazing, it plays and controls great. I think we need to kind of get into the more details to get into that.
Yeah, it seems like you're withholding quite a bit. So.
I do. I am. Yeah, I don't want to get into it just in the overall thing. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's jump straight into the story.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your impressions of the story.
Yeah. So I first want to say that I don't want to give any spoilers because the story to this game is really one of the best parts about it. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to talk about anything that happens towards the end of the game. So any story details that I get into will be early story details and nothing that's going to spoil the game.
Yeah, hashtag spoiler free here at Gaming Gig.
Yeah, absolutely. So the story is, in general, it's about two parents that are kind of going through a divorce. And they magically get turned into these kind of toys. And the whole point of the game is they're trying to get turned back into normal people.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that's the concept. And obviously, they have to work through a lot of problems, and they have to learn to work together. And it really creates some very interesting and very deep story elements that I think really brings the game to the next level. Because the gameplay is really great, but when you pair it with this very interesting and a story that a lot of people can relate to because it's about relationships. It's about learning to work together when maybe these two people haven't worked together well in a very long time.
Yeah, everything you said just kind of made me think Pixar movie, which I love.
Yes, it's very Pixar, and not only is it Pixar in its thematic material, it kind of has a very Pixar kind of look to it.
Which is a compliment.
Yeah, the graphics are amazing in this game, but they're very Pixar inspired, I would say.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I mean, we grew up on Pixar movies, and they can always hit you right in the feels. So it's cool that It Takes Two kind of takes a similar vibe.
Yeah, it's absolutely in that vein.
So here's the hard-hitting question related to the story, Randy. Are you ready?
Okay, let's go for it.
Did it make you cry?
It did not make me cry.
Did it make Catherine cry?
I don't remember. I don't think it did. I really wish Catherine could be here to talk about this game with us today.
Yeah.
If she hadn't been busy today, I would have had her here because I think she would have had a lot to say about it, and she would remember. But I don't think it did. But it was an awesome. I think for a lot of people, it probably could have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I voted for Dread, because it made me cry.
It did me too.
Yeah.
That final boss made me cry many times.
It only made me cry when the game was over. But anyway, so you've referenced the gameplay quite a bit. You say it works really well with the story. What is so great about the gameplay? What are some unique mechanics or elements there?
So the gameplay, if I had to sum it up in one word, I'd say variety. It's not all one thing. Each section of the game has unique gameplay that's, it's unique to each section of the game. Each section has its own thing going on. So like, for example, I don't want to get into spoilers because I think that this is one of the cooler parts of the game is that as you go through the game, you get new abilities and different abilities. So they don't really build as much as each section kind of just has its own thing. You lose abilities from previous parts of the game and you gain new ones. For example, it's all about working together. So like, I think one of the very first things you get is you're playing as Cody and May, and Cody gets an ability where he can throw nails, and May gets an ability where she has kind of like a hammer, like the head of a hammer. And so those two things work together. The head of the hammer can swing on the nails and it can interact with the nails in a different way. So there's a lot of like puzzle elements that are in each of the levels. And you have to kind of use your own tools together to get through the levels, which is really fun.
Yeah, it's funny that you say nails there, and it must be a little ways into the game because I know a lot of couples going through divorces. If one of them could shoot nails, they would probably be used for a different purpose. But that does sound like it could lead to some pretty cool puzzle moments.
Right. Yeah, and then like another one I think was early on in the game was Cody has the ability to throw this sap, and May has the ability to shoot, or I think she has these matchsticks. I can't remember if she shoots them. I think she does. I think she can shoot them, and they are explosive, and they light the sap on fire. So you have these things where you have to like throw sap and then light it, and then the puzzle things that come up are really neat. But each section of the game, and there's probably like, I don't know, my guess like 8 big sections of the game, and each of them have their own set of abilities.
So is it mainly a puzzle-based kind of game, or?
Yeah, I would say it's a puzzle platformer if you had to boil it down to like one genre. There was a whole lot of different things. There were 2D platforming moments, 3D platforming moments. The game constantly kept swapping up what you were doing, and then there were boss fights. Basically, each section of the game had its own mechanics, and it never was just one thing the entire time.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good game. I mean, I know a lot of games that I've really enjoyed at the beginning. I mean, you know that one of my kind of things is that sometimes I don't finish games. And I think one of the things that can lead to that is I just kind of get bored of the same old thing, by the end of the game. Just getting harder, but doing the same old thing.
Speaking of that, it kind of reminds me of Psychonauts, which is also kind of a puzzle platformer, but never really changes it up enough. And we'll get to that in another episode.
Yeah.
We'll kind of talk about that. That was one of the downfalls of Psychonauts that It Takes Two did not do. It Takes Two certainly had so much variety that it kept it really interesting. And none of it was super hard either. It was...
I don't think it has to be.
No, it was perfect for people who... Because you're kind of working together, you can kind of help each other out. So, like, for example, me and Catherine, if she was having trouble with stuff, I could help her out because we were doing it together, She could lean on me a little bit in the harder sections, like during the boss fights, for example. And then the actual platforming stuff or the puzzles, you really kind of helped each other out. So, if you're interested in playing this game and you're playing with someone who maybe doesn't have as much experience gaming, they can really rely on the person who has more experience, and it's a great game for that.
So would you have been able to beat it by yourself?
No, you can't play it by yourself at all.
Oh,
you
okay.
have to play it with another
So
person.
what we're saying is It Takes Two?
I should have saw that coming. Oh gosh.
Yeah, I lobbed that one up to you, man.
I'm kind of pivoting here. But a minute ago, we kind of talked about how this game was published by EA.
Yeah.
And I think that actually caused a bit of controversy because a lot of people don't like EA. And an EA game winning Game of the Year isn't something that a lot of people were excited about. Because recently there's been a lawsuit
Yeah.
against EA for using the It Takes Two name
I heard about that.
by
Yeah.
Take-Two, the Rockstar people.
Yes.
They sued Hazelight for using It Takes Two because they think they own Taken Two.
The words take and
which
two. Yeah.
is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I posted something saying people should try this game and support this smaller studio because the game is awesome, and this is ridiculous that they're being sued by Take-Two. Or maybe not being sued, maybe they just had a
Just
a takedown order, or maybe just a copyright infringement.
Right. Any sort of gaslighting, by a bigger company towards the smaller studios, kind of.
It's ridiculous.
It's not a good look.
Right. And I understand that they're kind of under the EA umbrella.
I don't know if that provides any legal defense.
Right. But the comments back on the thing I posted about how it was kind of crazy was like, they were upset. They were saying, hey, they should have known, they should have made sure that the name was good. And I know that's just because it was an EA game.
Yes.
It's not because of, they agree with Take-Two, because it's ridiculous. It doesn't matter how you look at it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to defend EA because they've made me mad in the past as well. I mean,
Right.
the way they just basically broke Star Wars Battlefront, before I even got a chance to play it, I started hearing about how horrible it was going to be. And then, with all the microtransactions and all that, they've got a reputation as a little bit of a greedy company. Yeah.
But Hazelight is a small studio. They've only done a couple different games. They did recently, before It Takes Two, they did the game. What was the name of that game? The prison game, A Way Out. That's what it was called, A Way Out.
Okay.
Yeah, and
You had to have two people for that one as well.
you had
right?
to. Yeah, it was the same kind of concept, but they learned a lot from that, and they kind of built upon it. And It Takes Two was a much more refined game, and was a much better game. I just can't say enough good things about It Takes Two, and I know I'm just a broken record saying it's an awesome game and you need to try it. But if you're a person that's interested in this game, I say go for it. And it's just so cool that it won Game of the Year, and I think more people will get into it because of that.
Yeah, I mean, do you think these required co-op games are going to continue to grow in popularity?
Now that It Takes Two has won Game of the Year, I think that they probably will. Obviously, there's a barrier to entry that you have to have two people to play it. Like, you cannot play it by yourself. It just doesn't work.
Right, that's why I haven't played it.
And that is certainly a negative against it. But if you can find someone to play it with, it's a phenomenal experience. I don't know that I've played any games besides these two where it was required to play co-op to play the games.
Right, and I've thought about that as well, that it is a little bit of a barrier to entry, but it's such a small number of the games out there. Like, there's plenty of single player games. It's
Right.
okay, and it's a really cool concept.
Right.
What about Unravel? Isn't that also kind of a...
Unravel 2,
Yeah.
I think, is co-op, but I don't think it's you have to play it
Really?
co-op. I'm not sure about that. I could, because I've not played it.
Yeah.
But from what I
I
understand,
thought you had played it.
No, I've not played it. But from what I understand, you can play it co-op, and I think it is co-op focused. But I don't think you have to. I could be wrong about it though. I know for sure the first game is not,
Yeah.
but the second game might be. You may have to be co-op to play it. I don't know.
It could be one of those situations like Overcooked, where technically you can play it by yourself, but why would you do that?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing to talk about is the price of this game. It Takes Two is a huge game, definitely fully featured game, and it was only $40 at launch.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, and I think that it was cheaper because
Probably because it had those 2D sections.
yeah, I know. It had some 2D sections, therefore there's no way you can charge full price. And this game would have absolutely been worth a full $60. Heck, it would have been worth $70.
That's a slippery slope, Randall.
I'm just saying, it was that good of a game. But it was only $40. It's part of the EA Originals series, which is their kind of indie line of games.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of those are full price games. But gosh, now that this game has won game of the year. I know that the next Hazelight game, I think it's going to be a full price game, but it's going to be worth it.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to see what they come up with, and maybe it'll be another co-op experience like this, but maybe not. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, they've certainly got their kind of market pinned down, and they've obviously done it really well now.
Yeah.
And they've gotten this achievement for it, so I think they would kind of be stupid not to do it. But who knows? I get that creativity is a weird thing, and you got to follow the creative bug.
Right.
And maybe they feel like they perfected it and they want to move on. But if they want to continue to make games in this vein, I think they will continue to be successful for sure.
Yep, I agree. All right, guys. So if you've stuck around this long, hopefully you have some thoughts about It Takes Two, or maybe whether or not it deserved to win Game of the Year. We'd love to hear from you. So drop us a comment down on the video, and let's participate in the conversation.
Yeah, guys. And until next time, I'm Randy.
And I'm Daniel.
And this has been Gaming Gig.
Peace out.